That's Murphy law, you know? Okay, let me begin again. I hope you see the video. Uh, as Kirtana told about you, I'm an experienced professional in the field of information security, cybersecurity, audit risk, IT, among others. Broad experience in the financial, insurance, logistics sectors, among others. I'm also a university professor with different classes like operating system, IT audit, information security, among others. Well, the main objectives of this webinar is to raise awareness about the best information security practice regarding incident response, empower cyber practitioners so they know how to apply the knowledge when an incident occurs, and help anchor the paradigm that good response to an incident is not only technical, but also human, okay? The agenda for today is we're gonna see real life scenarios, information security, key concepts, incident handling guides that are in the market, incident response life cycle, how to be prepared for an incident response, applying soft skills to incident response, risk matrices, and last, conclusions. So what I have seen in the internet about Canada specifically is that there are also cases of breaches. There was an unauthorized actor that accessed personal data at Harlan Farm Mutual on June 2020. Uh, what I have seen is that uh, even to all Harlan Farm Mutual tell people that there was not a significant breach, even if one small register about someone is accessed without the proper authorization, then you have a breach. You have to be very careful about that. This is another study that says that the cost of data breaches on the rise in Canada. This from July 2020 and from IBM. According to another reports, there are 84% of Canadians that rethink doing business with firms that already been hit by ransomware, by phishing, or by any other type of data breaches. The average cost of cybercrime. Here I have an interesting study from the Ponemon Institute that says that the average cost of cybercrime for an organization is now 13 million. So imagine that amount of money that a company can lose or other company can lose in a country, in an organization for cyber breaches. So that is the reason why you need to have a good incident response, a good controls in order to be protected for this type of attacks. Well, let's begin with the basic. What is information security? Information security are all those preventive and corrective measures that make it possible to protect the information and maintain the three aspects, what is known as the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality is that the information should only be accessible to those authorized to have access. Integrity guarantees that the data is kept free from unauthorized modification, and availability to guarantee that the information is available to those who should have access to it. So it's very important for you to protect the integrity of the data, the availability of the data, and also the confidentiality. There are another key concepts like what is an event. That is an observable occurrence in a system or network. It could be like a server receiving a request from a web page, a user sending an email, or a firewall blocking a connection attempt. Also, you have what is called an incident. This is that when a violation or imminent threat of violation of computer security policies or acceptable use can happen. And CSIRT. What is a CSIRT? Well, as a CERT is a concrete organizational entity that is assigned the responsibility for coordinating and supporting the response to a computer security event or incident. You can have a local CERT or you can have even a governmental CERT. From my experience, when you have an incident, you should be able to, if you have a outsourced party like a SOC that you have outsourced, but you have like a national CERT or a CERT, you can call them for them to help you. Sometimes you can see that there's an IP address from another country that is trying to make a denial of service attack. And in that situation, you can call the governmental CERT or the governmental CERT, and they will be able to talk to other countries so they can put down that IP address. The risk assessment is nothing more than identification of the hazards that could negatively impact an organization's ability to conduct business. A risk assessment could be qualitative or quantitative. In most organizations, if you don't have enough statistical data, then you can have a qualitative risk assessment, because in order for you to have a successful quantitative assessment, you need to have data like maybe 5 or 10 years of statistical data so you can conduct a quantitative risk assessment. And security incident response is the management of the life cycle of security incidents from the initial analysis to containment, eradication, and recovery. Uh, During my research, in case of Canada, I came to this information about regarding the PIPEDA, which is the Personal Information Electronic Document Act. Uh, the PIPEDA is a framework that in case of Canada, yeah, you should know it better than me, is very much oriented to prevent what is called a breach of security safeguards. As defined in PIPEDA, a breach of security safeguard is the loss of unauthorized access to or unauthorized disclosure of personal information resulting from a breach of an organization's security safeguards, okay? And very interesting here in the second paragraph, it says that this apply to small business. And the answer is yes. Large and small business will be subject to PIPEDA requirements. So incident response and adequate security control is not just for the Fortune 500 companies, for the big tech companies. No, it's also for small companies, because even a very small company can have private information from citizens that could be exposed, and it could cause significant harm to the affected parties. And as you can see there in the third paragraph, there are financial penalties if an offense to knowingly contravene by PIDA reporting. There are different incident handling guides. There's just not one standard. You can have the ISO standard, you can have the NIST standard, you can have the CREST standard, but in summary, all of them converge with the adequate measures and control you need to have in order to protect your organization and respond accordingly. Well, we expect this does not happen. Well, in case of cyber attack, just break the glass and pull the cables. Uh, if you have everything flowing smoothly, if you have an adequate network diagram, if you have already been able to perform an incident response drill, maybe you shouldn't go to this extreme, right? One of the concepts we use in cybersecurity is the defense in depth. Just like as the castles in the Middle Ages, where you have the keep, the moat, the tower, the bastion wall, and you have all those situations, you have to apply that same concept for information security. So you can have different ways of protecting, like a different layers of onions, where you can have a firewall, you can have DLP, you can have protection against denial of service. So this concept is key when you have a successful incident response. Lockheed Martin developed what is called the cyber kill chain. It's not just a type of steps and how can you can prevent a breach from reconnaissance to command and control, and each of these steps you can implement the adequate controls for you to be prepared for an attack really happens. We also have what is called as a MITRE, adversarial tactics, techniques, and common knowledge that builds on the kill chain and provide deeper level of granularity. So you can see the different steps from reconnaissance to weaponize, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, action objectives. And for each step, you can have different measures of security so you can be protected. So that is basically the main difference between the cyber kill chain from Lockheed Martin, the MITRE, and so on. The incident response cycle as per NIST, special publication 800.61, is that you have first the preparation, detection analysis, containment, eradication recovery, and then the post-incident recovery. And you can see that during the detection analysis and the containment, you have a full circle because you can go back and forth in order to do a successful incident response. And when you have the post-incident activity, the lessons learned, all the situation has been truly identified, they can go back to preparation in order to have a meeting with the person involved so you can discuss what happened and so on. Well, the first step is the preparation. Being prepared is to be ready to respond to incident, but also preventing. It's very important to have prevention. And you can prevent incident by ensuring that system, network, everything work just fine, okay? Preventive activities based on the result for risk assessment can lower the number of incidents. When you have a risk-based approach, when you implement a risk matrix and you have all the different scenarios contemplated, of course, not all incidents can be prevented, but you can have compensatory controls in order for protecting the organization. When you go to a detection analysis phase, you can see that for many organizations, the most challenging part of an incident response process is accurately detecting and assessing possible incidents. Like in this case, in this gift from Dolores from Westward, you see that there is a clone that has been gone rogue. There's something in the programming that made that clone uh, go rogue. And it could happen also in organization when you have like advanced persistent threats, when you have some very advanced ransomware or malware that just defy common logic. So you have to be able to detect many incidents that are not associated with clear symptoms. The incident response team should work quickly to analyze and validate each incident that happens when disaster strikes. Containment is important before an incident overwhelms resources or increases damages. During incident handling, system owners and others sometimes want to or need to identify the attacking host or host. So if you have, or we're going to see later on the webinar, if you have the adequate controls, the adequate inventory, you have all the things working smoothly, you can truly identify where is the incident, where is happening, what is the affected asset, and so on. Eradication recovery should be done in a phased approach so that remediation steps are prioritized. If you practice enough for an incident response drill, when incident happens, you're not gonna go like crazy in an organization trying to find what to do, breaking glasses, everybody yelling and so on. It happens when you are not prepared. But if you have a phased approach, if you have prepared adequately, you should go step by step trying to solve the incident. Of course, there will be urgency. Of course, the organization will be overwhelmed. The CISO maybe will have a lot of persons yelling to him, but you have always to use a phased approach. You can go step by step resolving the situation. And one of the most important part of incident response is also the most often omitted, learning and improving. It's not recommended that you blame responsibility. Well, it was Maria's fault. It was Michael's fault because he did not patch the server. You don't have to do that. Uh, when you meet to have all the lessons learned and you go to a committee to discuss what's happened, blaming game is not the way to go. Okay, you have to provide and closure with respect to an incident by reviewing what occurred, what was done to intervene, and how well intervention worked. Okay, well, the incident response cycle has a series of steps like creating an incident response policy and plan, as we're going to see now, developing procedures for performing incident handling and reporting. These 2 points are very, very important. You have to have policies, you have to have procedures in order to perform adequate incident handling and reporting. Setting guidelines for communicating with outside parties. It's very important the communication with third parties because if your organization is attacked and you don't know how to respond to your clients, you are in problem, okay? Selecting a team structure and a staffing model for you to be prepared for the situation. Establishing relationships, line of communication between the incident response team and other groups, both internal and external, and determining what services the incident response team should provide. You can have it inside in your organization, or you can have a security operations center, a 24-hour SOC that is always checking what's happening in your network. Is staffing and training the incident response team? Well, the reality is that many organizations don't have the budget, don't have the capacity to send someone to take a course like certified forensic analyst. So what you do is that you outsource a company in order for them to give you the service. It is not very, it's not maybe the large company, maybe security companies have all the capacity to have the budget to pay person to be certified in this way, but not everyone has this capacity. What I have seen from my experience is that you can have an escalation path from the SOC if you have outsourced the Security Operations Center. And you have the security analyst, level 1, level 2, level 3, and the SOC manager. It's very, very important to have an adequate communication with the security analyst. And most of the time, from my experience, the low level, the first level, better to say that the first level security analyst will just call you and tell, okay, I have detected some incident on a server named Chewbacca. And it's your responsibility to maybe to find what server is that. So in case it does not get resolved at the first level, then we began upgrading, they will begin escalating until the SOC manager. You do not want an incident to go all the way up to the SOC manager, because then it will seem that nobody has real clue what's happening on. You can have different model, but you as a business have to establish a clear escalation path. Maybe in a contract, you have to sign the contract and you have to request from the SOC that they give you the escalation path. Because when all hell breaks loose, when an incident happens, you should not be seeing, okay, which number do I call? No, it's not the moment to do that. You have everything in place to do a phase approach and begin calling the right person. And if you need to escalate the situation, you should know which are the supervisors, which are the manager. Maybe you should know the phone number of the manager to call them. You have to have this very, very importantly established. The new tendencies in the market for cybersecurity is using both SIEM and SOAR to enhance cybersecurity. So in order that you can have like a centralized log management with a SIEM, and also workflow analytics and automated response with a SOAR. Okay, so you need to combine. Many people say, okay, I only need a SIEM. Others say, okay, I only need a SOAR. But the best approach is to combine both to have correct visibility. And communication with outside party is a must, because you have to respond to your constituents, to the media, to the internet service provider, to law enforcement agency, because if you get breached, if you have a ransomware from some Russian or some Chinese gang, you must inform the law enforcement agency that you have been attacked. Okay, so you have to develop policies and procedures that contemplate all the situation, because when all hell breaks loose, as I said, you must be clear on how to proceed. This is a checklist from the NIST that say all the different steps, how can you perform an adequate incident management, from containment, eradicate the incident, remove the malware, recover from the incident. You have to even use a phase approach for correct financial, correct uh, incident response, and you need to have an adequate way to see all the different situations and the adequate chain of custody from the information and the hard drive that may be compromised. So you got to be prepared for the worst case scenario. When the enemies are at your gate, you need to act swiftly and in good situation. Are soft skills needed in incident response situation? Well, this is the different approach that in this webinar I'm going to talk, because there are a lot of different webinars regarding incident response, with what NIST says, what ISO says. But one of the most important aspects, what I have seen from my experience, that you need to have an adequate soft skills. Because what do managers need today? That you have an adequate people with the correct leadership, with correct communication. If you don't have a correct communication, an incident that is from this size could quickly escalate to this size, because you say something that you shouldn't be saying. Your communication failed. So you have to contemplate that the personnel, the security personnel, have the correct set of soft skills in order to have a correct interaction when all hell breaks loose, as I say. So what if I told you instant response is not magic? Okay, it just doesn't work like a Harry Potter or a Mary Poppins, that okay, wow, and everything is solved. It's not the way to do. Okay, are you ready to respond when an attack happens? When everything in the company, all hell, and it's fire, and everybody's yelling because you have been attacked. Nobody can work because you have a ransomware attack. You need to be prepared. And to defeat your enemy, you have to understand them. Like Sun Tzu, the art of war, you have to be able to attack the enemy without them knowing in order to respond with an adequate set of measures. So I have decided to put here what I call the quick win or the quick loss scenario. One of the first quick win or quick loss are the clear policies and procedures. And this is the HLCs of many organizations. If the policy and procedure for incident response are a cut and paste without a sense, what will happen? Many organizations, they go to the web and they just cut and paste different procedures, and their procedures cannot apply to your specific organization. Will the procedure work? Nobody knows. So you have to prove it. You have to make the drills so you don't get caught in this situation. The soft skills that are needed in order to adequately respond to this type of incident is a lot of teamwork, responsibility. You have to clearly define with yourself, with your clients, with your third party, with your SOC provider, what are the different level of responsibilities. And of course, you have to have control of your situation. You are the CISO. You are not supposed to go mad. Even if the CEO, even if the board of directors are yelling at you must remain calm and you must remain in control of the situation. And I know it's very easy to say it, but another situation is to really implement it. When an attack occurs, it's vital to be crystal clear about where all the assets are located. It's not the time to begin wondering where are the network devices located, how many are there. Because first responder will ask you, okay, how many routers do you have? Where is the switch? Where is the firewall? And you need to have an updated network diagram up to the point of the attack. Soft skill needed, a lot of teamwork from the CISO with the CIO, with all the technology department. You have to implement critical thinking because an incident response is something that requires for you to think outside the box, and you have to contain a good level of responsibility because you are the CISO and all your team that is supporting you in order to respond. Maybe you can call an external party, maybe you call your SOC, maybe you call the incident responder, the first response. You need to have very clear level of responsibility defined. An updated inventory is a quick win or quick loss. When an attack happens, having the asset information updated is key. If you're not clear, okay, I remember I have an Oracle database, but I do not remember the version of the database. I don't know if it's 10 or it's 11. It's not the moment of that. You have to implement it. Maybe you can have even an Excel spreadsheet, but you need to have the version, the last update, what are the patches installed, about all the assets involved in the company. If you are unable to find the information, you are doomed because the cyber criminal maybe is inside your network and he maybe has more information about your inventory than you, and it should not be the case. So the soft skill needed in that case, if you need a lot of creativity to see how you can have an updated inventory, you have to auto-motivate yourself because I know this field is very hard field. You need every day to just wake and say, okay, today I'm going to work with uh, a lot of motivation because their attacks are happening as we speak right now. So you have to be auto-motivated. And of course, responsibility. The state of readiness. The state of readiness to respond to a security incident comprises different aspects. You need to understand that there are people, processes, and technology involved. And okay, and every one of these is very important because without people, technology doesn't work, and without technology, the process doesn't work. So it's a continuous cycle when you have to contemplate all the different situations that could impact an incident response. The soft skill needed should be discipline in order to work in a secure approach, a lot of coaching to the different areas, but because when the incident happens, people must be aware of how each one fits in the overall scheme of the organization. And a lot of resilience because you are going to be bombarded by cyber criminals, even your own personnel from other departments like finance, operations. You have to be resilient. You have to be like a tree when no matter what are the storms right there, you need to be in control of the situation. Validated risk matrices. The importance of IT and security risk matrix cannot be underestimated. if the risk analysis had been performed and all the risk assessed, you can be assured that gap had been identified. Okay, most risks must be solved when identified in risk matrices. One of the methods, one of the framework you can use is the ISO when you have the different procedure with context establishment, identification of the risk identification, estimation, evaluation, and the most important is the risk communication and the continuous monitoring. This type of standard uh, use what is called the PDCA, the continuous monitoring sequence, so the organization are always covered from all the different risks that can impact that organization. Here, I put you an example. A lot of the information is redacted, but you can have a very simple risk matrices where you can have the identified situation, the level of probability, the level of impact, so you can calculate the risk level. So you can have like a three level impact, like low, medium, or high. So you can assess all the different situations, what are the technological risks, what are the vulnerability, and you should also define like a qualitative map of risk where you can define how each type of situation go into this matrix. And one of the most important part of these matrices is that you need to establish a strategy and responsible person. Because if you identify the situation, but no one is responsible, then you have a really good problem. You should implement time frames. Okay, we have identified that this server has not the adequate set of patches. We have identified that there is a misconfiguration in the cloud. So if you identify those situations, someone will be responsible. You can establish a start date, a due date, and you can go on checking each 15 days, 30 days if it's solved. So it's very important to establish responsible persons in a matrices. Soft skill needed, maintain control, as always. It's not expected from a CISO to go nuts. So he began to yell at providers that he get a phone and he begin yelling to the SOC person because they're not responding. You have to a good sense of resilience and also responsibilities. Cyber incident response included in DRP. You have to include different cyber incident scenarios in a disaster recovery procedure. Maybe you can do like a very simple scenario like a denial of service. I have seen many organizations that have a disaster recovery procedure and they have written, well, how can I act if I'm attacked by a distributed denial of service? So you can go on and you can call some company and you can say, okay, go on and hit me. And let me see if my web server, if the WAF I have in the cloud, if the anti-denial of service I am paying for monthly really withstand the attack. DRP must be tested not only on paper, but in real scenario, because sometimes you have like a paper scenario where you go, okay, first step, second step. No, do it really in a real life situation. Maybe you can use a server that is not connected to the production environment. Maybe you can use a server that is for test and attack that server to see if you have the ability to respond adequately. If you have cyber insurance, be sure to validate the level of coverage, okay? Soft skill needed, a lot of emotional intelligence. Like I've said before, it's not the moment to go game blaming and it's your responsibility, you shouldn't do that, and so on. Create relations with the different person in your organization because you will need everyone's help when an incident happens. It will not be only a CISO. Okay, the CISO, the first responder, maybe the third party that you have called, they are in control of the situation, but all the organization must help you. Because if you are attacked by a ransomware and every computer is infected, you will need every person in the organization to do their part, to do their job. So create relations. The CISO cannot be a person that is always in their office with doors closed, nobody talk to them. Every time he go to talk to higher management, there's a lot of discussion. That's not the way to go. You have to implement good relation, a lot of empathy, a lot of assertiveness in order to be an adequate and very skilled CISO. And of course, stress management. Okay, we know that this type of work is a very demanding one. It's like you are an emergency doctor, you are in with triage, with an emergency room. So a CISO also have to do some stuff like maybe mindfulness, maybe meditation, relaxation. You need to control the stress, because otherwise you're going to be burned very, very easily. Establish a comprehensive SLA with the SOC. The Security Operations Center contract, if you have one, must be comprehensive. Level of responsibility should be defined. Escalation procedure notification alert must also be clearly established. Because from my experience, uh, when you call the SOC, you expect them to work. But if you haven't defined yourself what is the procedure from the SOC, what are the level of responsibility, nobody will be responsible. Continuous false positive alert is not good. If you have a lot of false positive and the SOC is calling you every day because they detect something and they say, okay, sorry, it's a false positive, that's not a good sign. Because this is like the story of the wolf. When the real attack happens, when you have like an advanced persistent threat in the organization, maybe nobody will pay attention. So clearly define and pinpoint how are you going to work with the third party that is supposedly monitoring all your assets. Soft skill needed. Be assertive in your communication. Be confident in yourself. You have to be confident in yourself. Okay? If a situation happens and the management is like telling you, okay, Yusuf, what's happening? Yusuf, you are doing bad. Yusuf, and you are not confident, it's very bad because you can go depressed. Uh, you could lose all hope in that organization. After the incident, you can just walk out, or maybe they will make you walk out. So you have to be confident. You have to take control of the situation, and a good, clear communication is very, very important. Establish an incident management committee. You have to establish some way for the different areas to correctly address the situation. Look at the corporate communication. I have just seen yesterday here in Panama a company that was attacked from a phishing scheme. And they sent to all their clients notification, okay, we're being attacked by a phishing. But you know who was the department that put the communication out there? The IT department. And the IT department is not the right person to go on and talk with the clients, to talk with regulators, to talk with the media. You should have someone for corporate communication, someone who is trained in how to respond to the media, to the journalists. You have to have someone in charge of that. So it's very important also to have an incident management committee so you can, in case everything goes fine, you can go there and you can activate the incident committee. The incident committee maybe will not be activated in 1 month, 2 months, but when the situation happens, the incident committee should go on and it should be operational. And look, it's very important to put the right person to talk with the clients. You cannot have someone like Elliot from Mr. Robot, because if he's trying to work on his social anxiety and he himself is in a situation that he's in panic, what type of projection he will do to the clients? Okay, or you can have someone like this guy here on the right side, and nothing to see here, please disperse. You have to introduce or hire someone that have the appropriate response for the journalists and for the clients that are affected because of the breach. Soft skill needed, clear communication, being assertive, and you got to be resilient. Okay, it's very important to be resilient because this is a situation that this was not contemplated maybe, and the company is in peril. Incident response follow-up. One of the most important part of incident response is also often the most omitted, learning and improving. Incident response team should evolve. You need to be constantly new training to introduce new technology with new lessons learned. And as I said before, holding a lessons learned meeting with all parties involved as an incident is a security commitment in a security committee is a must. And it's not the right time to begin the blaming game, okay? Use emotional intelligence when you go to that committee, address responsibility in a good way, and as always, be very assertive. I mean, you need to put yourself, your situation, but you also need to understand the other part, okay? You need to be very clear of what happened and what are going to be the next step you will take so this situation does not happen again in that organization. Automate the incident management process. The most automation, the better, okay? Automate as much as possible. Escalation to third party, to CERT, other providers with practice when everything is fine. When everything is fine in the organization, perform incident response drills. So when the real situation happens, you are in control of the situation, okay? An automated process could avoid reputational and financial impact. So you have here like 7 steps to automate the incident management process. Believe me, it's not the time to begin testing how are we going to respond, because the cyber criminal is already in your network and you should be able to defend as quickly as possible to avoid further financial and reputation damage. Okay, take the proactive approach to incident response, build a team, create a plan, build framework, decide the right tools, and anticipate problem solution. You can have like different scenarios, and how are you going to respond to the different scenarios of an incident response. So to end this webinar, be prepared to respond accordingly, like the character here from the Mandalorian. This is the way. Uh, this is just an example that you should be in control of the situation. Someone has to be the leading voice on how the situation is going to be solved with the help of all the different parties involved. Conclusions: having adequate procedure and policies for responding to an incident is key, and a risk-based assessment is vital also. An adequate use of soft skills is a must, since it can define the final result. Because when you're under attack, you need to work with all the parties, and the best way to work with them is to have an adequate set of soft skills, because you're not working with robots. There are human beings. Maybe someone from the third party have a bad day in his home, he got to work with problems, and he got affected because you called them. So you need to have a clear set of soft skills to have everything flow smoothly and solve the situation. And as with everything, practice makes perfect. So be sure to perform tests with the right people before an actual incident happens, and be prepared for possible scenario. Don't get bored. It's a very demanding job. When you're a CISO, you know that you have to work on weekends, on vacation. Maybe you don't have any vacation. Maybe you're on vacation on the beach, but you have to respond to the cell phone because someone is going to call you. So take a good approach, implement the right set of skills so you can be in charge of the situation. And I put this situation because it clearly defined the level of intensity we live in this business. Like this is the first year in InfoSec and 3 years in InfoSec. And okay, for those of you that are watching Star Wars, you know that well, Grogu, you have 50 years and Yoda have 900 years, but that's the analogy that maybe you will get age, you will see like you have been beaten, but you have to be prepared because it's a very, very demanding job. Okay, thank you very much. These are my information. If you wish to call me either by WhatsApp or you can chat me by WhatsApp, there's my profile on LinkedIn and also my email on ProtonMail. And well, this is basically my presentation.
Thank you,
Kirtana.
Yusuf. Yeah, thanks, Yusuf. It was a really great presentation. It was different and you explained everything clearly. So I have a question. Since you have more than 10 years of experience in this field, and our student chapter, it's more, we have more students like who are an undergraduate and
Yes.
some are on graduate level. Like, what are the job opportunities for like incident response and risk management?
Well, incident response, what I can sell to you, if you want to work in an incident response, like in a SOC, where you have like to respond to clients, there are a lot of opportunities, but you need to have an understanding of the basic stuff, like how the operating system works, how does the network works, because maybe you can have an opportunity like a level 1 incident responder, and they will put you and you will learn a lot, because if you have a lot of company that is calling that security operations center, you will learn a lot. But this is a very demanding job. It's a very demanding job. You can work in incident response, but as I said before, you have to have the right set of skills, because from my experience, in one occasion, one incident does not materialize. This was maybe like an event, but the guy who called me because he detected something strange on my network, he doesn't have the right set of skills because he was like grumpy. He doesn't want to talk so much. So if you want to work in this type of situation, in this type of jobs, you need to have a good understanding of the requirements of a soft skill. You need to have a good approach, be always gentle, nice. You have to talk with the client. The other client is very, very stressed, so you need to calm them down. There are a lot of situations happening right now with this pandemic. In the current COVID pandemic, there are a lot of breaches. So I guess that there should be a lot of incident happening. So yes, there is opportunity for you to work in this field. But as I said before, you need to level up your soft skills, because if you don't know how to understand and you get stressed because the client is projecting your stress to you, then you are gonna get gone nuts. Or maybe you are not gonna resist working in that environment. And maybe in 3 months, okay, hey, this is not the job for me. I will go like a database administrator. I'm gonna go to a help desk situation. So you have to have the right set of skills to resist the situation, because it's a very, very demanding job if you work in incident response.
Yeah. And do you recommend any certifications to complete to get a job in this field?
Well, certifications for incident response, what I can tell anyone, I do not want to endorse any particular organization, because I don't work for this organization or the other organization.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is that certified in something like networks, proper understanding of security, security controls, how those different uh, devices work. I will not endorse like, oh, go this way or that way, because
Yeah.
each one of those give you a good level of understanding. But what's most important, for example, when I give classes to my student here in Panama, one of the courses I give is operating systems. And you need to understand how the different operating systems work, because Windows does not work the same as Unix. Windows is not Linux. Maybe you have some clients that have like AS400 situation. You have clients that have frameworks, okay, mainframes. So you need to understand the basics of computers, the basic of networks, and of understanding of controls. And there are a lot of good certification. And if you don't have the money right now to pay for a very costly certification, you can take courses that are free on some websites and go on a progressive approach to build your skills. When you are confident that you can pass the exam, you can go on and make the exam and have your certification.
Yeah. Thanks, Yusuf. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't know if anyone want to talk by the chat, if you have any question in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Hugo.
So I think that's it. I don't have any questions. So thank you so much for your presentation today. I will
Thank to
publish
you.
this on YouTube and I'll send it to everyone. And can you please
Thank to
send your
you.
slides in PDF so I can share it with
Yes,
my
yes. We
chapter?
will send these slides in PDF so you can share it.
Yeah.
Uh, I hope this presentation really satisfied what your chapter was seeking. As I said before, there are a lot of presentation regarding incident response with all the technicalities. And there's not just a robotic approach. You need to have the right skills of technical and soft skills also, because
Yeah.
if when an incident happens, if you don't know how to respond accordingly to a CO, you are doomed. If you say something that you shouldn't say, they will most likely, after the incident, they will fire you. So you have to have a good understanding how you can talk assertively and make everyone stay calm, at peace, and understand the situation happens.
Hmm.
uh, risk will always be there. Risk cannot be completely eliminated. You can mitigate the risk, but you need to have the right set of skills so you can continue your job. And as you can see, what managers want today is to have persons that are empowered, persons that have assertiveness, persons that have the right set of skills like human, because we are not just not dealing with robots.
Hmm. So yeah, I'll send everything to our student chapter. A lot of students couldn't attend today. They're in their final exams and midterms. So I'm sorry
Okay.
about that. I didn't realize that.
No, no, no
But thank you
problem.
so,
I
yeah, thank you
understand
so
that
much.
we're in December. Okay, thank you to you
Yeah,
all, for all the participants and from the university and yourself, Kirtana. Really
yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you. So thanks everyone. Have a great day and a great
Okay,
weekend.
bye.
Bye guys.